Hey everybody, welcome back to another Blockbusters Collectathon where we're going to be going down a bunch of different movies in one video. I shouted this out at the end of the Talking Pony review, and we're going to be looking at a bunch of different movies by David DeCoteau because we've done two of them already. We did a Talking Cat and then we did a Talking Pony based on request. So now I decided to look at some of his other movies, some of which I found, some other ones were suggested, so I'm just going to go down a couple of these. So we start up with the Halloween puppy, and this one has a lot of the same assets as a talking cat. You got Eric Roberts doing the talking animal, a lot of the same locations, a lot of the same establishing shots. It's the same lady as the mom playing the mother in this one. But here's the thing, this one came out a year before a talking cat. The premise is you got this kid who has a girlfriend and lives with a single mom who's currently dating Eric Roberts, and his biggest character flaw is that he's boring on, I guess it's Halloween night, because despite the fact this movie's called A Halloween Puppy, they really don't make that much of an effort to really give a shit by the fact that it's Halloween. Then they pull out this magic spell book, and they make references to The Evil Dead and The Day the Earth Stood Still, which that's what Evil Dead was referencing. For some reason they do a seance for a magic spell, and it turns Eric Roberts into a bulldog. Also, I just want to point something out, this thing I noticed. Apparently, in some places, the movie is actually sold as a magic puppy, which, considering I did a movie called My Magic Dog, no. And that one's bullshit because on the cover, it's a different dog than the one that's in the movie. It's a bulldog, and on the cover it looks like, I don't know, golden retriever or something. Why? So blah blah blah. A bunch of filler is skipped. You got a bunch of stuff of Eric Roberts as the dog, just having general fun. Honestly, the one bright side about this movie is that Eric Roberts seems to be having more fun in this one as the talking animal versus a talking cat, where he just sounds like just bored and drunk. Here, who knows? Maybe he was high when he did this, but it's like he sounds like he was having fun. Then they go to this old lady who shows that she apparently is like a witch because she's able to summon Flying Ryan level After Effects. Okay. And she tells them the stupid coincidence that resulted in him turning into a dog, because when they said Klaatu Barada and Necto, it was when Eric Roberts said Nito. That's what caused him to turn into a dog. It's stupid. So they get home, they are able to turn Eric Roberts back into a human, and then they keep throwing this dumb shit at us to pad out the movie's runtime. It's basically 68 minutes with 8 minutes of credits. This is one of the more tolerable ones. It's still shit, but it's one of the more tolerable of these movies, and I'm glad we're starting off with that because these just get progressively worse. But the one thing I noticed is that I hated this the most in this movie. The constant day for night and the inconsistencies. Like, they'll have scenes of people that are clearly filmed at nighttime, and then it'll jump, and you'll see what is obviously day for night. You can clearly see outside that it's daytime, and they just did that god-awful day for night filter shit, and it's just like, you're not fooling anybody. Okay, this one actually has a decent amount of, like, actually legitimate actors. Like, a lot of them are from kung fu martial arts films, and when I looked that up, I was like, oh my god, how did David DeCoteau work his evil wizardry into getting all these people to show up for a movie called Santa's Summer House? So yeah, all these people are going on a vacation, and it's just like a talking cat where everyone has like their own little set of, conflicts going on, and we go through them one by one as the movie progresses. But yeah, they end up at this summer house, and the people who own it are so courteous to let them stay. It turns out the people who own this vacation house are none other than Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. From there, we got a bunch of different stuff, like there are these two sisters who are always bickering because one wants to pursue a career in opening a bakery, and one wants to become a photographer, and alright, and like marriage problems, family problems, that kind of stuff. One guy is a scientist, and I like this. His whole problem is this. He doesn't believe in Santa Claus throughout the whole movie. And then Santa reveals that he is Santa Claus because he has an old letter where the kid made a wish for a present that wasn't real. You know, because it's not like, you know, the fact that Santa Claus exists in this world, it's not like Santa has an entire workshop of elves that could easily make the toy that he wants. I think the worst part of this movie is not just the fact that, like in a lot of these other ones, scenes just kind of go on forever with very obvious ad-libbing, but the worst one is they do a whole scene where they're playing croquet, and it is the most boring thing ever. Honestly, this one was just boring, but I did find some of the, like, really lackluster production funny. Like, I like the fact that this is supposed to be a winter-themed summer home, and yet the only, like, kind of remotely Christmas-themed thing was on one of the walls, there's, like little stickers of snowflakes. And they show these, like, pictures of Santa Claus, like, in these different locations, and they're so obviously photoshopped, and they look so terrible. But yeah, other than that, this one's... The only crime this movie really pulls is that it's just boring. Easter Bunny Puppy. Okay, this one came out the same year as Talking Cat and Talking Pony. And, oh my god, this has a lot of the same formula as those two specifically, and yet this one feels like it was made in 2002. So okay, you got the talking animal. In this case, it's a corgi, which the corgi was also in Santa's summer house, but despite the fact that it was on the cover, it really wasn't that important to the story. Here, the corgi is voiced by a little kid, you know, so we don't got Horatio, the talking horse, nor do we have Eric Roberts like in Halloween Puppy or Talking Cat. So here we have, like, you know, just some kid doing the voice of it. And sometimes the dog would say something where I went, you know, it feels like the movie's just reviewing itself. Like, he would say things like, "This is hard to watch." I'm like, oh my god, the dog is reading my mind. This lady who's a mystery writer and her daughter, and this family moves in down the street that has a boy that she really likes. She answers the door on him, and they first meet with her wearing a bunny costume because they're going to be putting on a play for the neighborhood for Easter involving the dog and a person in a bunny suit. So she was wearing this, like, Christmas Story kind of bunny suit thing, and she answers the door and embarrasses herself. And then this becomes the plot point, right? The next time she sees him, she says, "Oh, I have a twin sister. That wasn't me. That's her." And that becomes... At first I thought that was going to be like a joke. That's a key element to this whole story. And then on top of that, we have these bully kids who, they're the same guys from Halloween Puppy. They show up in a lot of these. I swear to God, I think I saw those guys in Talking Pony. I don't know. Maybe I'm going crazy. But they're in there, and they get roped into, you know, helping do the play. And then there's also this big Easter egg hunt where there's actual treasure that's buried, and people are trying to find the treasure. Like, you have this one sleazy guy who ends up getting busted at the end. This movie is called The Easter Bunny Puppy. By the way, again, like I said, the poster has, like, I don't know, has like a golden retriever or something. It's a corgi in the movie. They use that poster as an actual poster in the film. And I was just like, that is lazy. But this movie, it's like, why can't you just have a simple premise? Like, as stupid as Talking Cat was, it was just simple. Like, why do you have to introduce this whole, you know, all these like pseudo-romances and all of these, like, the treasure hunt storyline? Why do you gotta do that? It's like, I get you're probably trying to make the movie more interesting, but this is a movie called The Easter Bunny Puppy. And just like with the croquet scene from Santa's Summer Home, the worst part of this movie is there is a whole sequence where they just drag out people looking for Easter eggs. I swear to God, they use the same footage looped. So now we're getting into some Full Moon Pictures territory because David DeCoteau got his start over at Full Moon Pictures, which we talked about a little bit with the October 11 Movies 1 Review video from last year. The movie begins with a scientist doing an experiment on this young guy. He gives him these tainted eye drops, and then his eye ends up getting ripped out, and it turns into this, like, giant tentacled eye creature. Years go by. Apparently that eye took refuge in some kind of, like, apartment where all these teens are going to be bunkering down for the night. And from there, the eye does one of two things. It hypnotizes people and takes over their bodies, or alternately, it rubs its tentacle on girls while they're taking a shower. For the most part, this movie's just kind of boring. The only kind of interesting thing is the prop that they use for the eye. It's very like 90s, very cheesy 90s prop for like a straight-to-video movie, but I mean, for what, honestly, that's one of the better looking props in a Full Moon Pictures movie that I've seen. The movie's ending is very dumb because it ends with them just beaming the eye into another dimension, which that effect is pretty laughable. And then they hint that it's going to come back because apparently one of the girls is now pregnant, and it's implied that the eye is the one that did that. Also, I think it's funny, the movie's called The Killer Eye, and one person dies in the whole movie, aside from like the scientist at the beginning. Like, one person gets zapped with a laser beam from the eye, and then it just kind of like, he just kind of disappears into like really crappy straight-to-video 90s editing. Other than that, again, biggest problem with this one is just kind of boring. Some scenes are creepy, but not in like a horror movie sense. This is kind of it. 1313 Haunted Frat. This one I have the shortest amount of notes for. This is one of those movies, like those softcore gay pornos that he would do. And apparently this is like the last one in an entire series. I had no idea this was a series, but yeah, this was like, for a while, this was David DeCoteau's claim to fame. 1313 Haunted Frat. This is what happens. There's a haunted frat, and it's obviously filmed in what I can only assume is David DeCoteau's house again. There's one part though where like it looks like they're filming at like a Motel 6. But I mean, these movies are basically just, a lot of the time it's just guys getting down to their jeans or their underwear and running around doing stuff. And in this case, there's a ghost girl, I guess, haunting the frat. That's really kind of it. Like, this one is just so not interesting to talk about. Although, one funny thing I gotta point out, one of the guys, he's a guy wearing glasses, and I swear to God, he looks like Matt Watson. Bigfoot versus D.B. Cooper. This is basically the same thing as 1313 Haunted Frat, except they actually have a semi-interesting concept. You have two urban legends. You know, you've got D.B. Cooper, which I looked that up when I was done watching the movie, and honestly, the story of that is more interesting than this. And obviously, you've got Bigfoot, aka a guy in a really awful-looking Bigfoot costume. So here's what happens in this one, right? D.B. Cooper lands in a wooded area and finds a couple of guys who are going to be spending Thanksgiving together hunting turkeys. And by that I mean they're going to have a bunch of shots of them running around the woods with no shirts on, and they'll also be carrying around what are obviously fake rifles. You know what? I'll give this movie credit. You know, I thought we weren't going to get the two fighting like it has on the box. By the way, that is some amazing bulk level crap, man. That is, we're selling the box, not the movie. I be damned. The movie actually ends with them doing a fight scene. Very boring, once again, no different than 1313 Haunted Frat, except this one at least has a good ending, and again, it has a decent concept behind it. Okay, so this is a bonus movie. I decided to throw this in, Ginger Dead Man, because I did Ginger Dead Man for the 11 Movies 1 Review special, so I decided to throw this in. Ginger Dead Man 2. So basically, this one's supposed to be meta, because it takes place at a failing horror movie company that specializes in making movies about killer props. And so it's supposed to be a commentary on Full Moon Pictures. So it's Full Moon Pictures making fun of Full Moon Pictures. And then, the reason I threw this in is because David DeCoteau actually shows up and they make a jab about his career basically consisting of, you know, Full Moon Picture movies and movies with subtle homoeroticism. Little did they know that he was going to make a career doing laughably bad family movies.
These films are known for their thrills, high-concept gothic horror, and subtle homoeroticism.
How's this for the lunar spacewalk?
Love it.
The prop for the Ginger Dead Man ends up coming back to life. Sadly, no, it is not Gary Busey this time around. And I will say this, some of the kills are actually kind of creative in this one. It's actually, I'll say this, Ginger Dead Man, as dumb as it is, there's actually some funny moments in this. There's some actually creative stuff in here. It's not a good movie, but you know what, for what it's worth, this is honestly one of the harder ones to talk about just because it actually is kind of semi-interesting. There's this character who's like a fan of these movies, and then it turns out that he's been constantly like thrashing the movies online for getting progressively worse and worse. So it's like they're like making fun of the people who watch their movies to make fun of them. And there's this like whole collection of like killer props. Like one's like a turd, and one's like a dildo and stuff like that. And then they're the ones that kill the Ginger Dead Man when they're brought to life. Anyways, guys, that's all the movies I could sit through. If I had to rank the worst one of these movies, 1313 Frat was just boring and not interesting to talk about. Easter Bunny Puppy is close, just because it's just like too much in one movie. Best production, I'll be fair and say probably Killer Eye. As cheesy as the monster puppet was, it was one of the better looking things in any of these movies. Ginger Dead Man's close because they're trying to be self-aware with how awful the effects look. Best movie overall, Halloween Puppy, I would say is decent, just because it seemed like Eric Roberts was kind of having a good time. But again, that probably could be because he was smoking weed, I don't know. Anyways, guys, I got 2 new Blockbuster videos coming out soon. They're going to come a little bit later this week, maybe into next week, depending on whenever this gets posted. I'm going to be doing the Oogie Loves, the classic Oogie Loves. And to do something a little different, kind of like with the Blockbusters training video review, I'm going to be looking at one of those old safety instructional videos. And from what I can tell, it's starring Gary Coleman. So I'm a little curious about that one. But Oogie Loves, I'm just ready to see how shit-tastic that is. But anyway, guys, I'm Adam Sykes, and I'll see you guys in the next video.